What is a structural deficit? A structural deficit is simply what happens when, on paper, the state's spending commitments exceed its current revenues in the next biennial budget without accounting for any economic growth. It's a snapshot of a moment in time, not a prediction. That's an important fact to remember. What is a prediction and what comes into play when looking at the numbers is how well Wisconsin's economy is going to do going into the next budget, and how much growth in tax collections we will see. The projected structural deficit doesn't take into account a growing economy, more people working, higher wages, or stronger business activity, all of which generate tax revenue. The smart people at the Legislative Fiscal Bureau have told us that if the state were to see about 4% growth in the next biennium, the state would collect enough revenue to cover what we would have committed ourselves to spend in the next budget surplus bill. There would be no structural deficit. There would be no actual deficit. It's important to note that Wisconsin's revenues have beaten our own projections for many years running, and the projection going forward is for 4% growth. That information mattered in your lawmakers' decision-making process. Now, most of the spending in the bill, by accounting standards, would be considered ongoing expenses. Not taxing people on tips for overtime pay is considered an expense because it's a reduction in tax collections. More funding for school special education departments and general purpose aid would also be considered an ongoing expense, even though it should reduce the amount of local taxes the district would charge you. And so, in the next budget, had this bill been signed into law, we would need to account for those expenses. Inherited budget commitments are a normal part of how governing works. Every administration faces them, Republican or Democrat. Every budget debate starts with them before a single decision is made. It doesn't mean there's a crisis. The question isn't whether the number looks scary on a spreadsheet. The question is, how wisely is Wisconsin using the money that it has? And is Wisconsin using that money to make life better for its residents? And maybe, just maybe, your state government would reduce taxes so there wouldn't be a surplus. I don't know if that could happen with a divided government. The state of Wisconsin is not going broke. Wisconsin still has $2.1 billion in a rainy day fund, an insurance policy, if you will, sitting untouched as a backstop should the economy take a turn for the worse. And as a result of the budget surplus bill not passing, the state still has an additional $2.3 billion surplus sitting in Madison. The next legislature and the governor you elect will get to decide how that money is spent. Let me tell you, there's not much that's simple in Madison. But working to get as much of that budget surplus back into the taxpayers, well, that's a no-brainer. I want better for you, Wisconsin. I voted for the best deal we could get.